Young athletes with big stories. These sports stories are here to motivate, equip, and enlighten the next generation. You're listening to an Echo Sports production. Here's your host.
Hey everybody, Edwin Glosson here with your latest episode of the Girls Echo Sports High School Hoops podcast. We have a great episode here with you today. Our guest was played 4 years at Baylor University, where she was co-captain 2 years. She made it to the NCAA tournament 3 out of 4 years, where in her final season, her team advanced to the Sweet 16. She is in the record books as second all-time in free throw shooting percentage, also ranked in the top 10 in three-point shooting percentage, and also her senior year, she earned all Midwest team honors in that NCAA tournament and was named the 2003-2004 Big 12 Sportswoman of the Year. Really excited to have Coach Jessika Caldwell here to join us. Thank you for joining us, Coach Caldwell.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So you're in Denver, where there's no humidity. I'm in Texas, where there's a ton of it. How are things going right now for you on campus? What's going on with your team right now?
We're really excited to be ramping up our season. Colorado is one of the latest states to begin official practices and games. Our kickoff start date is November 18th, which is coming down. The leaves are changing around here. There's a cool breeze in the air, so it feels a little bit more like fall with winter on the horizon. But for now, we're just really excited to get going officially. We are on court about 3 days a week, and we do a mix of fall league, some shooting sessions in the morning, some skills sessions, as well as really hammer down our performance training, which is our strength and conditioning program that we have the opportunity to have a full-time staff here that takes care of that for us. It's pretty remarkable, to be honest. So we do that with our girls. We don't have a lot of rules or limits here in Colorado on the off-season time, but it just has to be non-mandatory. And once that November 18th date hits, we'll be really excited to start all things basketball season.
Well, I'm not surprised in regards to having that full-time strength and conditioning coach. When I looked at y'all's website, your athletic website, I was really impressed with just how detailed your faculty and staff, how much the effort they put into really putting out a great product and telling stories and articles about the athletes and the bios on the coaches and things like that. And I have a story to tell, every time when I travel, I try to get to high schools. I love high school sports. And whenever I hear of a famous high school, and of course, Christian McCaffrey and Ed McCaffrey, hear about, Valor Christian from those days. And I had to go check it out when I was in Denver for the first time. I was like, I got to drive by Valor Christian. And it's a beautiful campus. It looks like a castle in a lot of ways there. So I just think it's an awesome school, and I'm happy to talk hoops with you today. So question, I know that you were you played for Kim Mulkey, but you were recruited by her predecessor, Sonia Hogue. What was it like during that transition and shift? You committed to Coach Hogue, Kim Mulkey comes in as the head coach. What was the communication like? How did that go?
Yeah. I think being from Colorado, I grew up in Colorado Springs. Baylor kind of was a little bit under the radar, unknown, and one of those schools that had just been really sweet about that constant communication and encouragement and recruitment of me. And I think initially I really believed that maybe staying in state, maybe going to Colorado State was going to be the right fit. But I had decided to take that visit to Baylor, and I think it just was one of those things where when you know, and it checked all of the boxes from the campus to the spiritual components that I was able to look for, to playing at a really high level in the Big 12 and kind of, really reaching my expectation and limits in that capacity. It really felt like it was the right fit. I'd really never been to Texas before. And so when I came home and kind of came off my visit and told my mom and dad, my mom was pretty shocked. She was like, there's no way you're going to leave. But it just felt right. And really, Sonja did a great job of recruiting me. And so signed my national letter of intent in November. And then April rolls around, and I remember getting a phone call pretty early in the morning that they had let Sonja go, or she had decided to retire and kind of just work at the school. And so it was kind of one of those, like, heart drops in the pit of your stomach for a minute. This is what I feel like I decided on. I really believed in my heart it's where God was leading me to. And so it felt like a shock. But about a week or two, I think, transpires. And my dad was so sweet to remind me, just hold on, just wait to see who they hire. And yeah, just be patient. And so they announced it being Kim Mulkey Robertson at the time. And I was like, man, you look at her resume, she played at a high level. She was a point guard. I was a point guard. There were so many things about her story that I was like, I want to play for her. And I remember that first phone call. She called me and she was so gracious to saying, it's late in the game. We want to honor all of these commitments and these signees. And so I was like, let's go. There's a purpose, there's a plan. And I kind of took that leap of faith and was really excited to play for somebody like Kim.
Now, playing for Coach, obviously she's gone on to an amazingly successful and legendary Hall of Fame career. What are some of the things that you've taken from your time and learning under her leadership that you used, going on to be a head college coach yourself, and now, a head high school coach at Valor Christian?
I think what I loved most about playing for Kim that I've really tried to carry into my coaching is she has an uncanny ability of pulling out like a deeper vision for what you're capable of, and you don't even know. The things that she was able to get out of me, and however she did that, whether it was motivation, whether it was intensity, whether it was her way of showing how she cares because she just was on you to be the best version of yourself all the time. There are things that I look back on that I'm like, I don't actually know or even believe that I was capable of doing those things, whether it was defense, guarding the opponent's best player. That was something that was a role of mine my junior and senior year. And if you watched me in high school, you would have probably questioned that. Like, there's no way she's fast enough. There's no way she's strong enough. And for some reason, she was able to not only teach me how to do that, like in the physical aspect, but the mental toughness that it took to be able to night in, night out, man, this was who you're going to guard, and you better get after it. I'm really grateful for that. And I hope I can do the same thing for my players. I hope I can call them up into greatness and help them experience something that they don't really know that they're capable of doing.
You hit some really amazing nuggets there, specifically that mental aspect of it. And yeah, there's one thing, teaching someone how to correctly play defense and how to play angles and things like that. But the mental side of it, to believing you can, that's huge. And that's so powerful, especially as high school coaches, because some kids are going to go play in college and some kids are going to go on to do other things, but they can take that lesson of, I know I can do hard things and go do something so far beyond the game. So that's amazing that you're looking to touch athletes that way at Valor Christian. So, you guys had a really successful run. You go into the NCAA tournament your first season, and then 3 out of the 4, and then in the one where you didn't, you make it to the NIT championship game. So it wasn't like that wasn't a great season in itself. What was it like? 'Cause I know beforehand, doing my research, Baylor was not having that same success before Coach Mulkey got there. What was it like seeing that program being built up into a national power, like right before your eyes in real time?
I feel really thankful to have been a part of kind of that ground level foundational aspect of what excellence at that level looked like. And it didn't come without bumps, and it didn't come without, man, this is really hard. And it didn't come without some days that you're like, what am I doing? But I think that she was able to breathe in and help us buy into a greater belief, like I talked about earlier, but even more so a vision of like what this could look like. I think one of my favorite moments, like sport moments of all time that I've ever been a part of, was my freshman year. And my senior year in high school, Baylor was 7-20, and the end of the regular season, my freshman year, we had finished the season 20-7. It was one of the biggest turnarounds in history up to that point. I mean, that's a significant switch, not only just record-wise, but just where we were positioning ourselves. And we had an opportunity to make the NCAA tournament for the first time in school history. And they gathered us in the student kind of union, Student Life Center is what it was called. And, you know, ESPN cameras are live there. And I remember like sitting next to my teammates and thinking, okay, like there's no way they're not going to pick us because they're putting us on TV. And then we like, well, what if they want to show us being sad, or, you know, so it was like a range of emotions. But I actually have this photo, and Kim had this photo in her office when she was at Baylor from the time that I had graduated, and it was somebody had captured the exact moment where our names flashed across that screen. And to be a part of that, like, I think is so special, and I'm so grateful to have that moment of just like joy when you hear your name called for the very first time and you're part of that team that gets to do that. That's legacy. That's something that doesn't get to, you know, that's not taken away. And so I just feel like the bubbling over of excitement and the way that she was able to stir the Waco community to us kind of being that like visionary team to take it to the next level. I'll never forget that moment.
Now you had a great career yourself. You went on to play professionally at Sparta Praha. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, in the Czech Republic. What was that like playing overseas? What was that like for women or just Americans going overseas at that time? I'm very curious to see, like, you know, to hear your experience about what that was like.
I feel like I was, especially after, you know, my career ended at Baylor, I really wasn't sure what was next. I wanted to pursue a career in journalism. So I thought about going to graduate school and kind of did all the preparations for that. And again, just kind of like how it felt with going to Baylor, I just had this unexplainable tug to stay patient, to wait, to figure out if there was another opportunity. And I had been very involved in Athletes in Action. It's a Christian sports ministry organization throughout my career at Baylor. And I had been to the Czech Republic between my freshman and sophomore year on a short-term mission trip, and just fell in love with the people and the culture. And because of that connection, some doors opened for me to join Sparta Praha, also work alongside Athletes in Action in a ministry position. And it was a really sweet combination because it wasn't just about basketball for me, but there was a greater vision. But that time for me is probably one of the highlights of my whole entire basketball career. And I think part of it was because it was a new experience and it was definitely different, and my coach didn't speak English, and that was really hard. And I would have my teammates translate for me. And I remember there was one particular huddle, and our coach, Peter, he was very intense, and Czech is a very hard language, and he was just on and on and on and on and on, and he would say my name a couple times, and then so I turned to my teammate Eva, and I said, okay, what did he say? And she goes, just go shoot the ball. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's actually not what he said. That was a lot of talking for him just to say that. And so it was those moments that just kind of I look back and reflect on as being such a sweet time of just, man, go out and play. And the team we had was pretty much the underdog team. I think that's kind of been my career story, it seems. My high school team was the same, and then started at Baylor, it was kind of the same, and then same thing at Sparta Praha, and to find ourselves in the upper echelon, that top half before midseason, and to kind of compete for those top 3 spots. We had an opportunity to do that, and so we were playing, you know, Gambrinus Brno, who was the Czech national team at the time, and competing against them. And even, you know, their focus then was like, oh, we just don't want to get blown out. We're going to, you know, we might lose by 20. And I was like, no, like, that's not how we play. That's not what we do. That's not what I do. And to get them to believe another level of, man, this could be really special and really cool. I still have friends, still talk to some of them. And it was a really formidable and incredible experience for me. I absolutely loved every second of it.
Well, I mean, if I'm hearing some connections there, you're talking about belief and getting people to believe. And there was somebody in Waco, Texas that helped weave that into your story, and then you took that all the way to the Czech Republic and you weaved that into that program story. So it's really neat how those ripple effects, you're taking that to other programs. And I mean, that's what it's all about. So I think that's really cool. I just have a question. Can you say anything in Czech still? I mean,
I can say my name, like say Minue. I can say that's like my name is. I
Okay.
can say all my numbers.
Okay.
And Yedenats, I was number 11, so I know Yedenats because then I knew I was getting a foul call or whatever play that we were calling. But the phrase that I remember, I don't know why this sticks in my brain, is that my teammates taught me very early that Czech was cold, like in Russia. So I know Zima jako v Rusku, cold like in Russia.
Awesome. So, after your professional career, you went on to coach in college, where you coached at Colorado Christian and at UC Colorado Springs. So, I'm just curious, what was it like? How did that experience shape you into the high school coach you are today, in regards to just taking what you learned at the college level and taking it to the high school level at Valor Christian?
I would say that I'm kind of a reluctant coach. It was not something that I really set out to do, nor was like, yes, this is my path. And maybe I would even say at times I would say that I would never do that. So I am a firm believer now. Whenever I say something, I will never do that, it typically comes back around. So
Yeah, I know.
careful with my words in this thing. But as I was approached with the opportunity to come back to my hometown and start coaching, I started to really, specifically for me, pray about it, think about it. What does that look like? And my heart's desire, especially with the game of basketball, is transformation of hearts, transformation of minds. And so as I thought about what that could look like, coaching seemed like a really good fit. And there was some elements about my personality and the gifts and the characteristics that I believe God has given me fit really well with a coaching framework. And so it was one of those, okay, it was a reluctant yes. And I was not a very good coach when I started. I will say that right out front. I was young and inexperienced. And I think at that point you really think, man, like everybody thinks like me and everybody has the same level of intensity like me, and everybody, we're playing college basketball, so you should probably think the same way. And I learned very quickly that that's not the way that it goes, and to be really strategic and learn how not only to model the game, but to teach it in such a way that every person on your team probably needs a really specific way for it to be taught, for it to be spoken about. And so that was something that I believe that was a hard and challenging part of my, early coaching career, but I learned and leaned into even the failures of that so that I could learn to be a better coach in my next experiences.
So, and Colorado Christian, what town is that in?
So Colorado Christian is in Lakewood, Colorado, so it's a little bit more northwest of Denver. And it's also in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, the RMAC, so both UCCS and Colorado Christian were in the same conference.
And, at Valor Christian, you have strong athletes there. You have some prominent alumni like Reagan Beers that played at Oregon State, now at Oklahoma, Macy Heward that plays at Oklahoma State. How did your college coaching experience shape the way you counsel or coach athletes that are fortunate enough to go through the recruiting process, or are thinking of wanting to play college basketball? How has that experience helped you better connect or help them through that process?
I think my college coaching experience is really impactful because I think I learned how to run a really good practice. I think you have to be really efficient and kind of next level. I think the scouting aspect is a really important part of the college game. So there were those specific things that I really leaned into, of like how intense that we operated, how quickly we moved from thing to thing within our practice. Here at Valor, we got an hour and 45 minutes. That's it. And so it is about being very sharp in those moments. It's about being very committed to getting everything accomplished that we need to in a really short time. And so I think leaning into that college experience where that is really similar, and then carrying that over, I really think and hopefully that it really prepared those girls, that it wasn't quite a shock, because it's still a shock. It's still going to be a shock moving from high school to college, but maybe there were some elements that could carry over where it didn't feel as significant for those higher level athletes like Reagan and Macy.
With Reagan Beers, specifically one of my favorite players from last year's NCAA tournament. Love the way that she played for Oregon State when she played there, and looking forward to what she does and brings to the Oklahoma program. I'm just curious, what was it like coaching her? What kind of, I've never met her, don't know much about her from a personality standpoint, but I'm just curious, what kind of person was she off the floor? What kind of teammate was she in high school? Would love to hear about that.
Reagan is probably one of my favorite people, not just a player, but she's probably my children's favorite babysitter. Reagan has, she's a huge presence, and, when she walks into a doorway, she's going to fill up that doorway. But even more so, like, she has this magnetic personality that just attracts young people, because she has a deep desire to be a teacher. She wants to be a kindergarten teacher, which is so cute and so amazing. And so that gentleness and that youthful spirit combined with this like competitive physical force is such a beautiful picture. She is somebody that's so unique in the way that she leads. Her voice is so big and it's booming, and so you can hear her when she's cheering for her teammates and when she is, communicating as that back line of defense and help rotation sequences, or even off of a pressure defense in the back of a zone press. Her presence is just really made known, and I think it's so special because she comes with it with such humility and grace. And so balances those things super well. One of my favorite memories about Reagan is she comes in and she's a freshman and she's really our sole post player, and we kind of needed her to play a lot of minutes. And prior to, she was playing club basketball with Lauren Betts at the time, who's obviously at UCLA, and her sister Sienna is still here in Colorado and will continue on at UCLA next year. And so I remember, her and Lauren splitting a lot of time and playing together some, but kind of working together. And I remember talking to Reagan and just saying, she's a really big role as a freshman. We have some really good guards around her. We had Kendall Wetta at the time, who's the starting point guard right now at University of Colorado, and just some phenomenal players that are all playing at the college level. And but I said, you being a post, we really need you on the floor a significant amount of time. And she looks at me and she's like, I've never played a whole game in my life. And I was like, well, this is a really great time to start. And so I remember the end of that season, there was a couple, games where she had to play a lot of minutes in a row. And she goes, man, I just never thought that I could do that before. And I said, well, now we have the foundation. Now it's changing and channeling that belief to, like, how can I play a whole game at a level and a pace that's even higher? And so it was just one of those funny moments that I often remind her of. Remember when you told me that? I actually had dinner with her a couple weeks ago, and we giggled about that very same experience, because I'm like, look at you now at OU, getting up and down the floor. Who would have thought?
Another prominent alumni, who's now playing, ironically, same conference, same state, Macy Heward. She is the daughter of Brock Heward, University of Washington quarterback, played in the NFL. A lot of people hear him on Saturdays. I know I do. I'm a huge college football fan. Enjoy hearing him commentate on games. I'm just curious, what were they like as parents? Brock Heward and his wife and his family. I'm just curious, what was that like coaching her?
Macy is one of those special athletes that she has a drive that is really rarely seen. Like, there's a lot of girls that I feel really fortunate have come through Valor that have a significant drive to play at the next level and be the best version of themselves. But Macy is just like next level. The kid is constantly in the gym, constantly working on her game and trying to hone in on her craft. She loves the game. And I think what's so cool is to see that love from Brock and Molly, her mom, like how the love for her transforms her into this beautiful, like, love for the game, competitive spirit. You can see, like, both her mom's qualities and her dad's qualities of probably that next level competitiveness just trickle into this beautiful person of Macy, who really is just so driven and just absolutely desires to play at the next level, but not just play at the next level, to be great. And I think that really comes from her family, and not in a pressure sort of way. They were so encouraging and supportive. But I think that the beauty comes in because they know. They've experienced it. They know what it's like. And they can communicate those experiences to her to help kind of frame and give her a path to say, man, these are some of the things that you got to do if you want to play at that next level. And Brock is incredible. My youngest son gets to see him often, right, on Fox for college football. And every time he flashes on the screen, my son will say, "Oh, look, it's Macy's dad." And so to him, he's like nothing. It's Macy who's the leader in that family now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a cool story. Now, shifting gears to your Valor Christian program, I'm just curious, Coach. I feel like I have an idea already just hearing you talk and just the common themes that I hear. But I'm just curious, what are the pillars of the Valor Christian program?
I would say the on-court things that we have for expectations really kind of have filtered in from a lot of what I've learned from Coach Mulkey, and just the way that in which I've seen unity and community be a prominent piece of highly successful programs. Kind of the three on-court things that we expect of our girls is that we control our controllables, that we understand that in life there are things that we are not in control of, and we relate that back to kind of the spiritual component, which is super important to me, but also in the physical aspect of, there's just some days where maybe a team is going to defend totally different than what we're used to, and that's out of our control. We cannot control how they defend us, but we can control how we respond, or whether that's officials or whatever the case may be, but how we need to be the best team at controlling those things that are out of our control, or that controlling what's in our control. The other part is really a Coach Mulkey staple, which is winning the possession battle. That was something that I remember as being really important, and a statistic that we would look at, whether it be in practice or even at the end of a game, of that possession battle, meaning, are we getting more rebounds than the other team? Are we turning the ball over less but forcing them into more turnovers? And so we look at that formula of our offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds versus their defensive and offensive rebounds, their turnovers and our turnovers, and we put that together, and ultimately we want to be on the higher end, which will give us more possessions. The more possessions we have, the more opportunities we have to shoot the ball, and that's what we like to do right now with the squad that we have, is put up that three ball. And so that is a really important part. And so we track those things even in practice. Are we taking care of the ball in practice? Are we rebounding really well? And I just remember those qualities and characteristics. That was more so than just offense in the game. Rebounding and taking care of the ball were two of the primary focuses that I remember Kim really instilling in us, because that was a controllable. And then the other piece is unity and community. Our kind of focus versus being unified in one spirit, and how do we do that really well? And it doesn't just stop on the court, but it stops with our parent community, and it goes out into the community as a whole. And so how can we continue to leave legacy and impact the people in the community around us? And that's through service projects, that's through taking mission trips. You can see some of them behind me. We've been all over the world. As a girls basketball program, we've been to Israel twice, Panama, Dominican Republic. We went to Czech Republic, which is really special. And we've even served nationally in Alabama. And those things are really important to me, because I want our girls not only to get out of their bubble here in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, and see that there's a much greater and bigger world that I was afforded to see through sport, but really how can they use the language of sport to impact communities around the world?
That's amazing. So I'm just curious. I mean, you have me so intrigued when talking about the mission trips and getting a chance to take your athletes to do things bigger than basketball, and also just see things beyond their neighborhood. Right? How do you guys go about? You guys just have fundraisers? How do you choose those trips? How often do you go on those trips? Would love to hear more.
Yeah. One of the unique things we have here at Valor Christian is called our Valor Discovery Program. And so we actually have opportunities for all of our students to go on trips like these. About 24 to 30 trips go out every year. Our staff and faculty members lead those. Other really prominent community members come in and help lead those trips as well, and parents of our students. And they become really impactful times for these students to recognize again that the world is so greater than just the little snippet that we're afforded to see on a daily basis. So through that program, we encourage our students to raise support. Sometimes we'll do that at our games. We're known for doing a little Chuck a Duck contest. You buy a duck and hopefully win Chick-fil-A for a year, which is always really fun. But utilizing those opportunities within our games and fundraising for those events. And ultimately, the way that we choose those is just through connections, through my experiences. I've been to a lot of those places before, and so utilizing those connections and building bridges with on-the-ground missionaries. It's really important to me that we don't go to places that aren't continually served, and so making sure that it's not just a one and done, but there are more people coming after us. I think one of the coolest things that I've had to see is that we went to Panama, which was a first time for our school, and we served and did basketball clinics in kind of some of the mountain towns in Panama. And the next year, Regis Jesuit in our community, who actually we played last year in the state tournament final, they went to Panama the following year. And so to me, that's what it's about. How are we continuing as a basketball community and culture, continuing to reach people for Christ, number one, but two, transform and change communities through the game of basketball or bringing in food or whatever it was that we were doing on those trips. And so I'm really excited for what's to come. This summer, I'm actually not leading a basketball trip, but I'll be headed to Spain and doing a 100-mile Camino walk. So it's a pilgrimage from Portugal to Spain, and I'm excited. We'll have a couple different student athletes be on that trip, and hopefully a couple basketball players too.
I'm gonna have to research that. That sounds amazing. So, question in regards to the style of play. What is Valor Christian basketball? What's the style of play in which you like your teams or your teams play?
I think it's changed. This is my 11th season, and I'm not sure that we would say that we have like a specific offense that we've been consistently running all the way through those 11 years. We kind of lean into what we have. Obviously, when we had players like Reagan Beers, the ball better go inside. And, playing for Kim, she is very known for coaching really good post players. And I tell my guards often, man, you don't know what kind of gift you have when you play with a really good post, because the shots you get are so much significantly better when you have good post players to play with. And I played with some great ones, Sophia Young being one of them, who's an assistant coach at Baylor right now. And so, during that time frame, I would say it was more of a split post, two post offense, where we went a lot of high-low and allowed our guards to come off some incredible Reagan Beers screens. She set some monster screens, man. And so that kind of changed, when she left and moved on. We kind of leaned into more when we had players like Macy Heward and Kendall Wetta of that, more of a read and react style offense, where it was really predicated on moving without the ball and creating opportunities for your teammates by reacting off of what they do. But I would say the thing that has stayed the same is really particularly the defensive component. And I think that was really ingrained into me. And one of the things that I remember doing when I was in college is I wanted to know more about Kim. And so I asked if I could go watch some game film of hers when she played at LSU. And so I went to her house, picked up some VHSs, and like studied her game. And I think the thing that I noticed, not only was she a great passer, but really it was the defensive intensity and energy that she brought. And that was like the expectation that she had for us. And I think that that's something that I've carried over into all of our Valor Christian teams, is that we are going to be not just disciplined on defense, but we won't take possessions off. And maybe that's changing defenses a lot. I like to go in and out of things. I like to do make-miss offense or make-miss defensive transitions. I like a little bit of zone here and there, depending on what length that we have. I mean, it was probably the greatest adjustment we had to make in the state final last year against Regis. We went, Reagan's sister, Riley Beers, who will be a senior for us and is committed to Belmont, she went down in the semifinal game with a knee injury, and she's one of our best defenders. And Regis had Hannah Beliebe, so sister of Fran Beliebe, and Hannah's an incredible athlete and get to the rim, shoot the ball, and we just didn't really have a good individual man-to-man matchup. And so we had to adjust and change and really kind of sit in this little 2-3 zone, and we ended up, holding them. I think the score is 34-7 at half. And it was one of those things that I feel really thankful that the girls really buy into the defensive strategies and making that a priority.
You touched on shooting the basketball. You were an elite shooter from the free throw line and the three-point line. I'm just curious, are your teams known for being able to knock down their free throws? Has that carried over to your teams throughout the years?
I would love to say that, yeah, absolutely. Just touch them and they're great free throw shooters. From year to year, it's really changed. Last year's team was a really solid free throw shooting team, but it's ebbed and flowed throughout the seasons. There's been some really great years and some years that you're like, oh my goodness. But we do try to make sure, because it's close to my heart, I believe you do win and lose a lot of games at the free throw line. And I think with the change and being able to shoot 2 free throws, that makes it even more important that you get 2 opportunities when there is 5 fouls to be able to extend a lead or break into somebody else's lead when the clock is stopped. I think that's really important and impactful.
Last question I got for you, Coach. Macy Hewitt is gone, but you do have Riley Beers back, Reagan Beers' sister. Just talk about this team, this year's team heading into the season. How excited are you? Made it to the state finals last year. How excited are you guys, or you and your staff, about this season?
Yeah, really excited. We have quite a bit of girls returning. We lost 2 kind of rotational seniors that played in that rotation, one that's playing the NAI level and then one that's playing at Air Force Academy this year. And so we'll definitely miss those 2 girls' presence, Eva Parkinson and Melidal. But we have kind of a good chunk of young ones that are coming back. Obviously, you mentioned Riley, who's just an incredible defender, a really great vocal presence, a lot like her sister. And she has just an uncanny ability to do all of the little things, like all of the dirty work, from rebounding to taking charges, diving on the floor, but can get to the rim and score. And so we'll look for that a little bit more from her. We also have senior Quinn Van Sickle returning. She's committed to Pepperdine, and she's a flat-out knockdown shooter. You give her space, the ball's going up. She has a pure stroke, and it's one of those ones that you're surprised when she misses. It feels like a fluke when that ball doesn't go in. And then we have some really young girls that had great experience last year and were starters on our team, and now are in that junior position, and Cameron Gunter and Peyton Jones. And Peyton Jones is somebody to really look out for. She's got offers on the table from Boston College, Iowa State, Kansas, Oklahoma State as well. Could potentially go play with Mace, which would be really special. And so she's a 5'11" lanky guard with incredible athleticism and a really pure stroke, and just does some things that you're like, wow, like I could never do any of those things that she is able to do, shooting off back feed and getting through passing lanes like that. So I'm excited about what we have. We have a really good group of girls that are stepping into more significant roles. We're going to be small again, so we're going to live and die by the three, and sometimes I'm sure we'll be living, and sometimes it won't feel that way.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for taking time out of your day today to talk hoops with me. I look forward to talking more. Hopefully we can check in with you guys sometime during the season. But good luck this season, and look forward to talking again with you soon.
I would love that, and thank you so much for all you do for high school sports, especially girls basketball, and continuing to just make a prominent space for these girls to get recognized.
Championship Productions is the industry leader in instructional videos for athletes and coaches. Whether it was skill development or learning how to more effectively attack his own offense or even performance training, I always felt like I leveled up my coaching game with every addition to my coaching library. So as a thank you for watching our content here at Echo Sports, I have a special offer for you. You can use the coupon code ECHO1010. That's all caps ECHOTEN10 for a 10% discount on all videos at championshipproductions.com. Now, this offer is only good through December 31st, 2024, so make sure to log on to championshipproductions.com to take advantage of this great offer and level up your coaching game today.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. Visit us online at echosports.org for more information.